Hello there. I want to take a look at this insurance estimate. This is an Xactimate estimate that was written by MetLife for one of our clients, for a customer of one of our clients, a homeowner, and our client is the contractor. And this estimate was redacted so that we're not showing sensitive information. It's several months old, but it's a great example because it really shows significant differences between our estimate that we ended up writing and the estimate that was originally written. So the estimate itself that we're looking at here actually doesn't look that bad if you're just glancing at it. So, I mean, if you're looking at it, there's a lot of things in this estimate that are much better than most estimates, than most adjuster estimates. So, for example, asphalt starter course. Now, there's an item you don't see very often from an adjuster. So, I mean, especially without having to be asked for it. So it doesn't look that bad when you're at first glance. One of the things too is that I want you guys to always look for when you see rain diverter flashing right here. That's actually incorrect. It should say R&R in front of that rain diverter flashing like they have on these items down here. So now, if you look at a State Farm estimate, a roofing estimate, you're almost always going to see that without the R&R. So you may look at it and say, oh, good, they've got the 11 pipe jacks in the estimate. Great, they've addressed that, but actually they're not paying you to remove it. And you ask them why, and they say, well, that's actually already included in this item right here, this item right here. So they're saying that when you remove the shingles on the roof, right, they're saying that it includes just about everything else on the roof. Not this particular adjuster, but I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. You're probably hearing that a lot. So let me explain further. The steep charge and the high charge, line item number 3 and number 4 here. If you see, the adjuster has it correctly in the sense that he's included removal and replacement. So you have the removals on line item number 3, 4, and 5 for the steep charges and high charges. And then if you come on down further, sorry, I guess it was already up there. Oh, here it is. Yeah, so right here. This is the replacement item for the 1012 steep. This is the replacement item for the greater than 12 steep. This is the replacement item for the high charge. Okay? Now, but the problem is that removal 31.85 squares should actually be replacement 31.85 squares plus waste. And see, that's the thing that they miss a lot of times, whether intentionally or whether they don't know, or maybe the company directive is don't pay waste factors on the replacement portion of these items. But that's actually incorrect. The waste factor should be on the replacement portions as well. Okay, that's important. But even more disastrous is when adjusters don't include the removal either. So they'll just give you like the replace. So you may think that they're covering the steep charge and the high charge, but yet it seems like it's a short, it's low. And a lot of times that's why. It's either because they've eliminated the removal items, or they haven't paid waste on the replacement portions, or a combination of both. So that's a big problem for this estimate. The other thing is that there's no flashing. There should be counter flashing on this job. There's no flashing anywhere, and there's no step flashing, which should also be here. And that money adds up to a lot. I mean, this is a big roof, 72 squares. So the numbers we're going to be looking at here are larger than your 20, 30, 40 square roof. It's a large roof. It's really cut up. Obviously steep, high charges everywhere. Now, the chimney, there's a chase cover missing from this estimate, and flue cap times 2, because there's 2 chimneys. They have manipulate chimney flashing down here at the bottom, 2 hours, But if you had chimney flashing, the actual items that are supposed to be used for chimney flashing, it should come up to quite a bit more than that. So those are just a few problems that are jumping out at me right away as I'm looking at this estimate. And even though it may look good to many of you at first glance, it's not a good estimate, and I'll prove it to you. But front, right, left, rear elevation, there was no elevation damage on this project. Now, another major problem is the fence. They've got it at 672 square feet, when actually that's way, way, way short. So always be looking at measurements. Just because the adjuster wrote it down, don't think that it's covered. I mean, because it might be that they just covered certain runs of the fence, but because they wrote it up in there, you and the homeowner think that the fence is covered. And also look for non-recoverable depreciation on the staining item for fences. That's another big one too that you need to be aware of. That's a portion that your customer is supposed to pay for. So if you didn't know that, you need to know that going in. So you know that. So a lot of times people think that their number is the RCV value on fences. It's not the same as the rest of the job. Even if it's an RCV policy, most of the time their fence or other structures, any items with material in it, like the stain, is going to be depreciated and it's not going to be recoverable. So look for that as well, okay? The other thing is that the major thing is that there's one glaring thing in this estimate that's missing, and that's overhead and profit. So to give you a quick summary on this estimate, grand total 29,826.61 was MetLife's original estimate. So then what we did was we submitted an estimate to MetLife on behalf of our contractor, again redacted. We made an O&P statement here in the very beginning. We are a true general contractor. We've been tasked with performing all tasks in this project associated with, let me scroll over, with several trades. The project required the use of subcontractors for all of its tasks listed. We coordinated all of these subcontractors and their tasks over the course of many weeks, planning and assessing included. It required several trips made by many personnel. We financed the cost of this project, ordered materials, including special order, picked up materials, delivered materials, etc. The level of complexity and/or coordination required of a general contractor to carry out this project definitely met and exceeded any threshold necessary to obtain overhead and profit. It has been assessed to this estimate accordingly. So you see, I mean, there's all these theories out there about how to get overhead and profit. Some say that there's this magical letter, and and there's this thing that you can have your homeowner write. There's all these things. See, what you'll find with me is that I don't talk a lot about the laws and policy, because usually I represent the contractor, and so we try to stay in the contractor's lane. So we don't talk about a lot of policy and laws, and by the way, there is no law. I mean, there's definitely rulings and things that have set precedent in different states and different cases. But the thing is that the old way of doing things, 3 trades or more, is no longer the case. So if you've probably heard that. So what you hear usually, if they explain it to you, is that the level of complexity and/or coordination required of a general blah blah blah, right? And you ask them to repeat that, and they say it again. And it's like, well, where is that threshold? Where is the threshold that's required, to reach that? So there is no threshold. It's an unwritten rule. It was an unwritten rule before, and the insurance industry has managed to move that unwritten rule. I will say, though, that if you have interior damage on the project of any kind, then that usually, almost always, although it's getting more and more resistant these days, will trigger overhead and profit, okay? But also complexity of the job. So even if all of your trades are on the exterior, there is a chance that you could get overhead and profit approved. So, you just need to use all your fundamentals. There is no magic formula. There is no secret. You need to bring your game on all levels. But listen, the overhead and profit is one thing, but what about everything else? So let's look at this estimate that we wrote. All right, so you have the removal of the ridge cap. Now that's a big thing too, because that's an item that they typically miss. And a lot of times they don't have the ridge cap in it at all. All that's included with the removal of the shingles, right? Well, that's not true. If you look at the description that Xactware actually gives for the removal of the shingles, it doesn't say anything about It includes removal of drip edge and valley metal and stuff, and other flashings and vents and all of these other things. It does not include that. Even if they were to select the item, remove shingles with hauling. In other words, they do not select the one that says no hauling. So the opposite of that. It actually still, if you look at the description right here, it includes dump fees, hauling, disposal, and labor to remove composition shingles and felt. That's the exact word. That's the official exact word description for the removal of shingles. It doesn't say anything whatsoever about the removal of anything else. So we have this footnote, that's up in this area that says that this item does not include anything other than the removal of the shingles and felt. It does not include the removal of ridge cap, starter strip, valley metal, drip edge, vents, pipe jacks, or anything else. All other items must be accounted for separately. Now, with all that being said, right, are they going to go for that every single time? Are they going to approve it every single time just because you showed them the light and the truth of what Xactware says? Absolutely not. In fact, State Farm, most of the time they won't approve it, but they will sometimes. You look at like this adjuster's estimate. We were looking at it a moment ago. He had R&R in a lot of his items. He had the removal. So the very fact that you run into adjuster estimates that already have certain things correct in there, then that sort of shoots holes in the theory that other adjusters go by. No, it's included. It's included. Well, then why is it that all these other adjusters include it without having to be asked to do so? So, you just really need to itemize every single thing on the roof, okay? And there's standards and there's different rules to go by, but you really need to itemize every single item on the roof, okay? Knowing that sometimes all of it will get approved. And that's why we keep doing it. That's why you must keep bringing all of it every single time. But knowing that they're going to have items that they're going to want you to take off, they're going to do that anyway. Even if you start with a less amount of items, they're going to do that anyway. So anyway, this estimate: remove the ridge caps, remove the shingles, remove the high charge, remove the steep charge, remove the steep charge, remove the drip edge, remove the valley metal, remove the counter flashing, remove and replace all the caps and vents. We have chimney flashing ×2. That's $806 versus $250. We have the fireplace chimney chase covers. $919 was missing from the adjuster estimate because he didn't have those two, plus another $285 for the flue caps on line item number 15. Then you have the flashing, the replacement of the flashing. Again, it's another $373. What about the valley metal? The adjuster didn't have valley metal at all on his estimate. So just the replacement of the valley metal is $1,435. So step flashing, $868.22. And he had the starter, which most adjusters are not going to have. And quite frankly, most insurance companies will not approve most of the time, even though they should, but they don't most of the time. So this roof is extremely cut up. So it has a 20% waste factor, which is rare. Like you usually don't use that high of a waste factor, but this roof was maybe even more than that. It was extremely cut up. So we used a 20% waste factor, including that waste factor on line item number 22, 23, 24, the high charge, the steep and steep. It needs to be there as well. Ridge caps replacement. What if the adjuster missed the ridge caps? $3,792. Oh, it's already included. No, it's not. Are you trying to tell me $3,800 is already included? No. He had paint his trim. We had sealant paint on the last one. Now, that's a pretty subjective item. It's like, some will say it's because of the drip edge. It has a color, but then in other words, a lot of adjusters will already have that included in their estimates. But some will say that no, it's it's for the drip edge. Others will say it's for the fascia when you remove the drip edge, which to me seems like more of a logical theory. When you remove the drip edge, you're going to scratch up the fascia, damage the paint on the fascia, so you would paint the fascia. But I think that it's more referred to as the drip edge, though, because if it was going to be the fascia, there's a line item for fascia. But again, it's just so up in the air, it's subjective. I think different insurance companies follow different rules, quite frankly, as like with many other things. So, all right, the fence. Now look how far they were off. I think it was like what 675 we said before. So now we have 45.72. Big, huge difference, obviously. And then we also have added some masking and taping for that, because I mean, if you're going to do the staining of the fence, you're going to, if you don't mask and cover, you're going to get it all over the landscaping and the lawn and different parts of the house or different, playground equipment, patio furniture, things like that. So generally there is some covering and protecting involved with that kind of a project. And so we have those items in there as well. But also a little bit of sanding can be added from time to time for the really, really big hail where the pressure washing doesn't quite bring it back. So you can add a little sanding. We found that goes over pretty well, and then the dumpster. So, and then obviously the overhead and profit. So look at our estimate, 57,258. And as I said, this estimate's older because it's such a huge difference. But I wanted to use it because even big, huge differences happen and they exist. And so you just need to really be careful. Don't work off of the adjuster's estimate and just believe everything they say, right? So, I mean, someone would say, well, you're price gouging if they just heard that we submitted a $57,000 estimate, right? And theirs was 29. It's almost twice the amount. But if you really looked at this estimate and looked at, like if you hired me to write this estimate for you and I told you how much it was going to be, and then you said, well, that's too much. I don't want to submit a $57,000 estimate. And I said, okay, which items would you like me to remove? And you look through that estimate, chances are you're not going to want me to remove any of those items, right? And I hope that you're not going to want me to remove any of those items, because when we did submit that estimate, here's the final approved estimate from MetLife, which, by the way, I mean, give it a week or two, but this one came back in 24 hours. I kid you not. For anyone that challenges that, get in contact with me and I'll send you the original emails. So 24 hours later, we got this estimate back, and now everything looks better, right? We've got the step flashing, we've got the flashing, we've got the valley metal, we've got, let's see, here's the flashing. Yeah, the counter flashing valley metal, the chimney chase covers, the, certain things he still didn't quite give us, right? But he took it up quite a bit. His roof alone was 47,158. Again, no damage on the elevations. And the fence he corrected, 4572. He did not give us the masking and taping, right? So, I mean, some of those things, we had some items to give back to him. So did we get a full approval? No, we didn't get a full approval. But I sure am glad that we submitted this estimate to the adjuster and followed up with them and made sure that we did get a 52,267.50 approval. The proof is in the pudding. So I really wanted to show you guys actual results of what we do and not hold back as if there's some kind of secret to what we do. I mean, I just showed you exactly what we do. I mean, we submitted photos and excellent documentation. I think that's the way that you need to go about, going back again, we don't really talk about laws and policies and try to argue those things with adjusters. It's not about that. We're working on the side of the contract, on behalf of a contractor, through the eyes of a contractor, if you will. And a contractor has to walk a fine line. They can't act as a public adjuster. So they can't act as an attorney. So we just stay away from those things, but yet we still win with documentation and with proper photos and knowing how to use the Xactimate software, knowing what makes up an insurance claim project. So obviously, hopefully you can see the value. I mean, we do make more money for our clients than most stockbrokers and attorneys. I have to just say that. So, but again, the results speak for themselves. We're going to show more of these because we could do these every day. We get these, not this drastic, like I said, but we get approvals in every day that adds more money to our client's bottom line. And so this is not an advertisement for our service. This is more just to show you how it's actually done, the behind the scene. I mean, this is not rocket science. There's nothing magnificent about what we just showed you. So I mean, what if they didn't approve the overhead and profit? You still end up in a great place, right? So my point earlier about the overhead and profit, don't worry about that all the time. Don't get hung up on things that you can't control, right? I mean, work hard, follow all the rules, handle all of the fundamentals of your game, and bring your best foot forward every day, every time, with every claim. Okay, I hope that helps somebody out there, and definitely, if you have any needs with any advice on any particular claim or situation, please do get in contact with us. We love to help, and that's what this video is about. So I wish you guys the best, and keep winning.